Hello everyone, this is Vanessa here from the Craft Corner, and I'm delighted to partner with Donegal Library Service in bringing you this spring wreath project. And this project is brought to you as part of the Donegal Library Service's Spring into Storytime program. My project is inspired by one of my favourite books of all time, The Secret Garden, and it's inspired by all the different flowers that Mary Lennox discovers in the Secret Garden throughout the book's journey. You can take inspiration from the book itself, from our own imagination, and also if you're making your own flowers and you're looking for inspiration as to what type of flowers to make, the Donegal Library Service has a fantastic free online Encyclopedia Britannica where you can see lots of images of different flowers and you can look at the different flowers that are mentioned in the Secret Garden book. So these are two different styles of wreaths. I'm going to show you how to make both, and we're going to look at the different types and styles of flowers and different materials that you can use to make them. The first thing to think about for your materials is how you're going to make your wreath or your garland. You can use a few different things to make this, either a wire coat hanger or a piece of cardboard, and I'll show you how to make it with both. For making your flowers, you can use either tissue paper, plain paper or coloured paper, or if you didn't have anything like that, you could even just use newspaper. I'm going to show you how to make flowers using all of these different materials, and you might even want to do a mix on your finished wreath or garland. Other materials that you're going to need are a ruler and a scissors, markers, glue. So either a glue stick will work, but I would recommend having a PVA glue if you can. The other material that you're going to need to help you make your flowers is either garden wire or is paper clips. So we'll use some paper clips to help keep our flowers together. Other materials that are useful to have are wool and ribbon and twines. These aren't 100% essential, but having something like this will help you with certain parts of the project and add another element to it. The other thing you're going to need is a plate to make your circle template if you're doing it on cardboard, and then draw a circle around it. Cut out my circle here. So I'll show you the cardboard first and then I'll show you on the wire. Now we need to cut out a smaller circle, okay, so that we end up with a disc. So for this, you can either draw it or you can find a smaller plate. Now, if you're using like a paper plate as your template, what you can do is you can fold this over, right? And then sort of follow one of the, sometimes there's different lines on the paper plates and they're handy to cut out, or find another plate in your house that's a bit smaller, okay? So one tip I will give is when you're cutting out your inner circle, okay, make sure that this rim is at least 5 centimeters. You don't want it to be any narrower than that or it's just going to be too weak. So then we need to cut this out. I start by going in the center, so very carefully poking down, making sure your hands aren't behind, and then cut outwards. Now bend one of the triangles back and carefully cut around the edge, and just keep bending and cutting until you've made your disc shape. Okay, if you want to do it with a wire coat hanger, you can do it by pulling the coat hanger and making it into a circle shape. Now, the only thing I will say about this is that it can be a little bit trickier making your garland from the coat hanger, attaching the paper flowers, etc. So if you're doing it with younger kids, or if it's your first time making something like this, stick with the cardboard. It'll make your job a little bit easier. So there with the wire hanger, make your curved shape, and you can kind of shape it around a plate if you want as well. And I keep this on the top because then that's what I use to hang my garland by. And don't worry about if this is a little bit wonky. We're going to cover this with flowers, and also you'll be covering it with wool as well. As I said at the start of the video, I am using the Secret Garden as inspiration for this flower wreath. So I looked through the book and I found different types of flowers, and I used the online Britannica to see what kind of shapes and colours they were. First thing I'm going to do is open up one of my paper clips, and then we need to cut paper to size. So I'm going to show you, if you have some tissue paper, it'll probably be about 16 centimeters square, okay? I'm going to cut the same size in a piece of newspaper, and in a piece of coloured paper. And I'm going to show you how to make flowers using all three materials. So you're going to stick to the square size for your flowers. And if you want to make smaller flowers, you just make a smaller square, and bigger flowers, you make a bigger square. But 16 centimeters is a good size to start with for our paper flower garlands. Okay. With your newspaper squares, there's two things you can do. You can leave them as newspaper until you've made your flower, or you can paint them in or colour them in beforehand. So I'm going to show you how to do that. There's a few different ways to colour in your newspaper. You can do it with watercolour paints, or you can just do it with plain crayon. If you're painting your newspaper squares, make sure they're fully dry before you do any folding with them. We have our paper ready to go. If you're using tissue paper, I recommend using 2 or 3 sheets together. So I'm going to do a flower with 2 sheets of tissue paper. Any other paper, you just need 1 sheet. So I'm going to show you how to do a few different styles of flowers, and they're all going to start in the same form for this style. So the first thing that you do is you fold your paper back and forth, like you're making a paper fan, okay? And each of these folds is about 2 centimeters. You don't need to be too specific, but what I also check is it's about, see, it's just a bit smaller than the width of my thumb as well. So fold them back and forth, keep the lines as straight as possible. And every time you do a fold, okay, go down like that with your fingers. Squish it out and make it nice and flat. So for the next part, if you have garden wire, you can use that. Or if you have your paper clip, you can use your paper clip. This is one of my favorite type of flowers to do because there's so many ways you can change it into different types of flowers. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the center. Okay, so that's the center of my flower. All right, and then we're going to get a paper clip, and we're going to wrap the paper clip around the center. You do the exact same no matter what paper you are using, okay? Wrap it around the center and then twist it to hold it in place. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to shape this part, and this is where the petals are going to be, okay? So I'm going to show you a few different styles. You can do a rounded petal. So do it rounded like that, okay? You can do a petal that goes into a point. What you do now is carefully open out, right, your petals like this. And this center part, right, you can squish that up a little bit, okay? So you're squishing all those bits together, okay? And then open it out, and then you can pull the layers up. So your inner layer there. For your flower. Now that's how you make a tissue paper flower. Paper flowers are a little bit different, so I'm going to show you how they work now. Open it out. Okay, got to be really careful at this part here because it'll want to break. But you can squish it up a little bit. Open it out. Okay, and then here, okay, squish this part down, okay? So pull it open, all right, like a fan, and then squish down the center. Then very carefully with my thumb, I push it So you're pushing it so that it goes into a bowl shape. Now, they sometimes want to tear. That's okay. You just have to be nice and careful with it. You can always hide any tears. Now, so this is how you make a paper flower. You can't do more than one layer with the paper flower because it'd be too stiff. So they look slightly different, but I'm going to show you how you can fill the center of the paper flower. To make the center of your flowers, squish 2 sheets of the square newspaper together. You can leave it plain or you can color it, and then put some PVA glue onto the back of it, quite a bit, and then stick it into the center to make the center of your poppy. So now we have a whole selection of flowers to put on our garlands. With this one, we trimmed the very top bits to make it look almost more like a dandelion. This one here has those pointed triangular ends to it. And this little flower here I made using 3 layers of tissue paper, and it was a smaller square, 14 centimeters. So you can see there the difference in the size of the flower. So it's good to sometimes have different sizes as well. For making leaves, you can just use plain paper. So from your paper, cut out a simple leaf shape, and then you're going to pinch the center fold to make the veins of the leaf, and that's a very simple leaf. This one, you get a triangle shape, so I'm just cutting this square into 2 pieces, triangle. Then you fold it like we did our flower, back and forth like a fan. Okay, then fold it in the middle, glue that center part, and there you have your 3-dimensional leaf. So let's do that again. Fold it back and forth like a fan. Then you glue the center spine, fold it in the middle, glue it together, and then you get these lovely fan-shaped leaves. You can also do them with an irregular triangle shape to get different shaped leaves. So you can experiment with different types of triangles once you always fold back and forth in that fan shape, and then glue that center part and leave those to dry before you try and attach them to anything. So there are 2 types of leaves. If you're using a wire coat hanger, okay, think about what you want the garland to be. Similar for this as well. You might want this to sit on your head. If so, this is going to be the perfect size for my head. You might want it to decorate your door. If you want this to be smaller, you just pinch this in and twist this part more to make the circle smaller. What I want to do is I want to cover some of this as well. So you can do this on both types of wreaths, and we're just going to get some wool. You can cover this with any type of material. You could even use material scraps, but because this is wool and it's thin, I am folding it up to about 4 strands of wool all together. And you can do any color you want. I'm going to do a little combination of different colors. So again, I'm going to cover this, but for now I'm going to keep that because that's going to be my hook at the top. So start wherever you want your color to start, okay, and then tie a knot, and then tie a second knot, okay, like that. Now, those tails we're going to hide inside. So wrap your wool around your wire hanger, keeping those little tails inside. Keep on wrapping, and then when you get down towards the end of your wool, you're going to put a tiny little bit of glue just to hold it in place, and then you're going to tie a knot and start again for your next color. For your cardboard wreath, there's a few things you can do. You can cover it in wool, or you can paint it, or you can cover it in paper. It's completely up to you. For wool, do it the same way as you did with your wire wreath. Get a few strands, tie it around the back, and wrap it around your wreath. Do it in small sections, tie it off, put a little bit of glue on, and then I hold that with a peg and just let it dry. You can also cover it with paper. Cut long, thin strips of paper, either newspaper or plain paper, whatever you want, and glue them at an angle, wrap them around your wreath, and continue until you have covered the whole wreath. So as you can see, I've covered this wreath, showing you 3 different options using the painted newspaper, wool, or just plain coloured paper. And with my wire wreath, as you can see, I've covered that as well in various different twines. Putting your flowers onto your wreath. Here, the back, you have your 2 wires twisted together. You're going to open them up a little bit because you want to have wire open like 2 legs, okay? keep it twisted at the very top and then open it out like that. All right. Then what you can do is you lay your wire or your paper clip like this, okay? And then bring it around the back and twist it together like so, okay? Now, say your wire isn't long enough, okay? Or you only have a really short piece of wire here. Other thing you can do is just hold your wire like this, so squish it down flat, okay? Get your glue, put a lot of glue all over the back of your flower, okay? Bend the wires around, or if they're getting in the way, you can cut them off, and then squish it down and press it down onto your wreath and let it dry. If the wire is getting in the way, you can cut it off, or else you can also get a little bit of the paper and cover the wire with it, and that will help hold everything down. So keep adding your paper flowers to your wreath. This is our poppy. I'm just opening out the wire here, and because the paper is a little bit harder, I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the back, place it down, wrap your wire around and tie it at the back, and there you go. Next I'm going to stick on the leaves, and again you're just going to leave all of this to set while it dries. So get another leaf on there and just place them down, press with your hands and leave them to dry. If it's on the wool, put a little bit more glue on it just to make sure that it's nice and secure. So for the wire wreath, it's very similar to your cardboard wreath. You just wrap the wires around and squish them down into place. So there is getting a couple of flowers on, just wrapping them around the wire. They want to move around, but you can just move them into place when you are done. Make sure everything is really dry before you hang them. You can put it on a wall, just attach a little bit of ribbon at the top to hang it by. Thank you so much for joining me for that arts and crafts project with me, Vanessa from the Craft Corner. I hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you so much again to the Donegal Library Services for including me in their Spring into Storytime programme. Take care now. Bye.